iPads. Fantastic. So just to let you know again, I've just started recording and I will be sharing this with all Year 4 parents after the meeting today. So like I said, good morning. Thank you very much for joining me. And this is a quite short information session on the multiplication check for parents. We assume it is going to be going ahead this year. We've not heard otherwise. Since they actually brought the multiplication check out, it's not actually being completed due to COVID. I know the first couple of years it was just a trial. Else. There we go. So hopefully this will be the first year that it's actually done properly. But my first thing I would like to say is it is nothing at all for you and your children to worry about. It is just, as I'll explain, it's just a progress check for the government. It's nothing that the school is measured by. It's nothing that the children are graded on. So it's no extra pressure for them or for yourselves. But as we all know, as adults, having strong times table knowledge, it helps us out so much in maths and in life in general. So just moving forward. So a little bit of information about the multiplications check. So it determines if Year 4 children can fluently recall their multiplication tables. The key word in there is fluently, rather than spending time counting up on fingers maybe. It's that instant, rapid recall. It's designed to help us as schools identify which children require more support. Obviously, we do that as a school anyway. We are constantly practicing, rehearsing, informally testing our times tables with our children, and it's something that we start all the way in Key Stage 1. But again, this just helps us. It's another measure to help us identify and support our children. So there is no pass rate or threshold. So unlike the phonics screening check, children will not be expected to reset the check at any point. The DFE will create a report about all the results, but they will not create a report for individual schools. Okay, so looking at when the check will take place now. So it's a 3-week window from the 6th of June to the 24th of June. There's no set day for us as a school to administer the check, and the children are not expected to take the check at the same time. So we as a school, we will look at our calendar, we'll assess other events that are going on around those 3 weeks, and we will pick appropriate times for the children to do the check. All Year 4 children in England will be required to take the check, and it can be done either as a whole class, in small groups, or individually. Again, this will be decided with the class teacher closer to time, and we'll also be able to make provisions for other children that need it. So how the check is carried out. It's fully digital, so we will either be using laptops or iPads, probably iPads, because it's more, the children are more used to it because they do a lot of the times table rock stars on tablets and phones. So we try and keep the situation circumstances as easy for the children as possible. So it'll be entered using a keyboard. So like I said, by pressing digits using a mouse or using an on-screen number pad. It will take about 5 minutes for each child, maybe more, maybe less, depending on how quickly they move through the questions. And the children will have 6 seconds from the time the question appears to input their answer. So that's 6 seconds to read the question, work out the answer, enter the question. They don't need to press an enter button or to move on. As long as they've put the full answer in, it will record it automatically. And in terms of the layout, it's quite similar to the TT Rockstars layout. So it will come up with a check at the top, a keypad at the bottom. So the children, like I said, they are quite familiar and used to the layout. Be a total of 25 questions with a 3-second pause in between each question. And there's 3 practice questions for the children before the check begins, and these won't count towards their final pass score. There will be opportunities for the children in the class to log on to the DFE website in school and practice the actual style of the test before the check. They will all receive a login. It's a time-sensitive login, so it lasts for about a day, and it will be done in school. It's not something that we would expect them to practice and rehearse at home, but it's just, again, just to let them check out the format that they'll be doing and get used to it, and just have the opportunity to practice it a little bit more. So in terms of specific arrangements for the check, so some children will be eligible for additional circumstances. So those children who have an EHCP, if they have specific SEND provision, so if your child works with Mrs. Maudsley, our SENCO, and you're concerned that they might need a little bit of special arrangements, that's something that you can talk to her about, and class teacher will talk to her about. Or if your child is EAL. So the arrangements can be, we can change the colour contrast, change the font size, we can add or remove the next button. So if we don't want the child to sit and wait for the 3 seconds, we can actually give them a next button. We can remove the on-screen number pad. So if it's on a laptop or a keyboard, we can have an adult input in the answers, so it'd be like a scribe for them. There's an audio version, and they can also have an audible time alert as well. So just to clarify, your child will only be able to have these arrangements. Just admit someone. Your child will only have these arrangements if they have an EHCP, have specific SEND provision, or are EAL. So the check questions. So each child will be randomly assigned a set of questions. There will only be multiplication questions on the check, not division facts. So I know on TT Rockstars, quite often there's a combination of multiplication and division questions, but on the actual check, it will just be multiplication questions. The questions that are most likely to be asked are the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12 times tables. This is because they're classed as the hardest tables. So they're the ones that we will be focusing on. We'd encourage you to focus on when practicing at home. And these are the ones that are most likely to be asked. There will be a maximum of 7 questions, however, from the 2, 5, and 10 times table. So the children may be asked a few questions on those times tables, but the big focus will be on the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12. Reversal of questions will not be asked in the same check. So if the child is asked 8 times 6, they will not be asked 6 times 8. And the children will not see their individual results when they complete the check. And in fact, as a school, we don't see the results after the children have completed the check until the DFE publishes it at the end of the time period. If there's a technical issue with any of the devices or an environmental issue, such as a fire alarm going off, we will restart the check so the children have got... let someone else in. So the children have got a really fair chance. So if there's anything going on in the school that's disruptive or distracting to them, we'll make sure that we restart it for them. In terms of locations for the check will probably be done in the classroom or in a small intervention or group room or even the library. We'll really try and focus on making sure it's a really nice, quiet environment for the children doing the check. So now there's some ways on here which I just suggested for you to support the times table knowledge at home. So you can count and look for patterns if you're looking at numbers or if you're out shopping. Understand that multiplication is repeated addition. I'll go through these in a little bit more detail in a minute. Remember that multiplication is commutative, so that's where you can switch them round and it means the same. So 8 times 6 is the same as 6 times 8, which is why both wouldn't be checked in the check. Remembering that multiplication is the inverse of division. Sometimes we use the word opposite, so it's the inverse, the opposite of division. We're able to recall and utilise number families. I'll show you some examples of those in a minute. And you can use different representations to represent multiplication. So concrete manipulative, so they're things that you can hold in your hands. And it says there, such as multi-link cubes or counters, which are resources that we'd have in school. But if it's at home, it can be absolutely anything. It can be biscuits, it can be sweets, it can be little toys lying around, pieces of Lego, anything like that. A concrete manipulative is just something that you can hold in your hand to represent something. And then children can also create pictorial representations, so pictures of the times tables using arrays. And again, I'll show you a couple of examples of those in a minute. So this is an example of counting and looking for patterns. So here are some socks at the bottom, and this would be counting in twos. So when we start looking at times tables, we really try and ensure that children have a strong understanding of counting in groups first. So it'd be counting in 2s, 4, 6, 8, 10, etc. So when the children are secure with the counting, they can then look for patterns. So as we can see there, we can see that we're counting up in 2s and there's a pair of socks each time we're counting. Maybe if we then have 2 pairs, so we'd have 4 socks, we can see, oh, well, the 4 times table is double the 2 times table. So it's just a way to help children look for patterns within there. So whenever children start counting in a new amount, such as counting in 8, for example, we really try and give them the opportunity to see what that looks like, to really reinforce that 4 times 8 looks actually quite big compared to 4 times 6. So again, it's just having things written out, drawn out, or using items around the home as well, just to really see the times tables. So we've got repeated addition. So this is where the children know that 2 times 4 is the same as 2, add 2, add 2, add 2. And this can be a skill that they can use when they're just starting to get to grips with a new times table. So if we ask a child what is 2 times 4, they might go 2, 4, 6, 8, and they might be counting using their fingers. So multiplication is commutative. So this is where it's the same both way rounds. 3 times 2 is the same as 2 times 3. So they know that it can be completed in any order to produce the same answer. So on here, we've got a couple of arrays. The array in green is 3 lots of 2. So we would say 3 lots of 2 equals 6. And we can also say that 2 lots of 3 equals 6. So it's just to show that they may be represented differently, they may be written the other way around, but the answer would be the same. It's quite a tricky word considering it just means it's the same. So multiplication being the inverse of division. So again, even though the division facts aren't tested on the multiplications check, it really helps children solidify that concept in their mind as well. So we know that 20 divided by 5 is 4, if we know that 5 times 4 is 20. And on here, we've got a pictorial representation. So this is, again, another example of an array. And it's used here for children to see the link between multiplication and division. So we can see there that we've got 20 counters in total, and that we've got either 4 rows of 5 or 5 columns of 4 in there. And that helps us with the multiplication and the division side of it. And number families. This is something that we've mentioned earlier on. So a number family is where we can see that if we know that 4 times 5 is 20, we also know that 5 times 4 is 20. We know that 20 divided by 5 would be 4, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. Now, this is something that comes up quite a lot in years 4, 5, and 6 in maths lessons. And it's basically where we say to the children, if you've got a statement such as 4 times 5 equals 20, using those numbers only, those digits only, what else do we know about them? So it's, again, using the 20 at the top, where we know that 4 times 5 is 20, or we'd also know that 5 times 4 is 20. This can be quite a tricky concept for children to understand sometimes, because quite often they will see a number family written down and they'll think, oh, I need to work out what the other number is or the missing number is. But actually, it's just reminding them to use that the facts are there is a whole number family, and it's made up of an array of different facts. So this is something, again, that you can practice at home by drawing it out in this really simple diagram as shown. And here we go. And another one is using known facts. So if we've asked a child what is 4 times 6, they might not be quite so confident on the 6 times table yet, but they might know that 4 times 5 is 20. So if we know that 4 times 5 is 20, that's a known fact. We know that adding another 4 would be 4 times 6, and that would be 24. So this is where we sometimes say using facts from easier times tables. So it's times tables that children may be a bit more comfortable with, or a little bit more, have a bit of a stronger, quicker knowledge of it. And then it helps them find answers with increasing speed. So again, this isn't something that we would use to rely on, but it's something that we can use to help build children up. And finally, just a couple of points on how best to prepare your child for the check. So it's to remind them that the check should last no more than 5 minutes and that it's absolutely nothing for them to worry about. As a school, it's nothing that we're worried about. As parents and carers, it's nothing that you're worried about, and they shouldn't worry about it either. If you do want to go over times tables with them, make it fun. So at the bottom here, we've got some games to try. So it's climbing stairs, counting in multiples, playing times table games. There's lots and lots of times table songs on YouTube that you can have them play in the background. Take it in terms to say times tables in funny voices, play maths games online. And obviously the one that we use at school and is absolutely fantastic is Times Table Rockstars. Your child's teacher can set specific times tables, or if we use, as we usually do, is the default diagnostic program. That means the program actually learns the times tables that your child really needs to practice, and it sets it for your child. So we do encourage a few minutes a day or a few minutes a week on TT Rockstars, and the children really do enjoy it. If you've got any concerns at all about the check, or if your child's worried about it, please talk to your child's teacher, or if you get in touch with the office, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation with yourselves as well. Like we said, absolutely nothing to worry about. And in school, we won't be making a big issue of it. We won't be getting the children worked up and excited about it. We're going to keep it really low key. And again, if your child's got any concerns, as you would normally, please encourage them to talk to a trusted adult. So if it's yourself at home, or speaking to their teacher or another adult that works in their class. And that is it. Thank you. I am very aware that I went through that with quite a pace, but this will be sent out to you, and I will also be sending an information sheet from the DFE website as well, which contains all the information that I've just shared with yourselves. Has anybody got any questions that they would like to ask about the check? Or I'm more than happy if you've got any questions later on, if you email into the school office, they'll pass them over to me. Yes, Steph?
So when you said they do it in class, is that as a group or separate?
It would be, so each child would have an individual device. It would just be that multiple children in the classroom would be doing it at the same time. So they'd log on at the same time, and then they'd work through it at their pace. And then obviously when they've finished, they'd just close the device and wait for the other children around them. But we will be speaking to class teachers to find out what works best for their class, whether it's taking groups out to another room or whether it would be administering it as the majority of the whole class.
All right, thank you.
No worries. Anybody got any other questions? Nope. Oh, well, thank you very much for joining me. I will send this out to you this morning. And like I said, any more questions, please just get in touch with the school office, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with yourselves, have a chat with your child as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.